you've heard this from me, but who better to hear about the opportunities in Europe than from some industry leaders who are living it every single day? And who better to introduce and lead the panel than our own Nigel Gilbert? Nigel? Take it away.
Thanks. Thank you. So this has actually worked out quite well. Before this, I was anticipating a picture of me in lederhosen was going to be put on the screen, so we've managed to avoid that, fortunately. Good. I thought they were going to spring it again. Welcome to the first... All right, great place to start. Now everybody knows what I like to do in my spare time. What you don't know is actually on the left that's Brian, and on the right that's Michael. So yeah, look. Just before we start, I'd like to add my feelings to how great this turnout is as well. You know, this is the first session, first event that AppNexus has ever done outside of the US, and the turnout is fantastic. There were hurdles for sure. We were trying to convince the marketing department for a really long time to do this. They were worried about British food, I think, came up. The weather. It was going to rain all the time, presumably. I even heard, if we do it in June, isn't all of Europe going to be on holiday? I explained that was just actually in France.
Yeah, I cancel my holiday to come here.
We were lucky to get Alexei. You know, he was halfway to Provence.
Cancel it to be here.
So this is a good thing. Yeah. So on that note, based on the fact this is the first session, you guys have seen Brian talk a lot about the fact that discovery is a really big part of our business. It's a really big part of what we do. So we figured that what would be a really good way to start would be to get some real industry leaders. Stop writing notes, Paul.
Sorry.
Let's finish now. And talk to you about what they've discovered. You know, how did they learn about their businesses, and how did they grow into these markets as well? So let me introduce who I've got here. First, we have Alexei Marcom. He is the CEO of Audience Square, which is a publisher coalition in France. Alexei's been in digital media for a pretty long time, over 10 years. Long enough. And you'll notice his content in his bio is not actually in the brochure. We were a little bit too late to put that in. So I asked some of his team to give me some fun facts about him. I saw them yesterday. And they immediately declined. So whatever he's doing, he's certainly got them under the thumb. But welcome. Next, we have Andy Mitchell. Virtually everybody in the room should recognize Andy. Andy's been around in media since things were in black and white. I actually promised him I wouldn't say that, but now we're here. I think I couldn't resist it. He's going to kill me afterwards, by the way. You can probably tell by the look on his face. So I don't want to list the achievements and the successes that Andy's had, but certainly in most recent times, long sessions at DoubleClick, and most recently, MD of Any Media, part of the associated Northcliffe News Group. Hugely successful business in programmatic, and we're very lucky to have him. I did also ask his team yesterday for some fun facts about him, and I got loads. They were incredibly generous, and he said he'll kill me if I use any of it. So turns out that's probably going to happen anyway now. And at the end, again, someone you should all recognize, if not from Bodybuilding Weekly. They can't get me when I'm on stage, right? They're going to have to get me afterwards. And obviously lots and lots of ATS events. If you can hear in the corner of the room somewhere Kieran weeping, it's because Paul has recently left ATS and joined Media IQ full-time as the global head of strategy. So welcome everybody. Please wait till afterwards before you get anything about me. And what I thought would be the great place to start, Brian talked a lot about innovation and the fact that Europe is leading the way, and this is where a lot of innovation is coming from. So I figured that what would be good, Paul, perhaps let's start with you. I mean, do you buy that? Do you think that's true?
Well, firstly, I'd just say, in typical Nigel style, he's taken 20% of the time limit on his
That's 30 seconds.
Quick preamble.
We're good. Sure. We're good.
3 minutes left now.
No, I mean, like talking around, is innovation, is Europe the hub of that innovation right now in this space? I think it's more important that we take a step back and think, how do we define innovation, and what does actual innovation mean? So if we think innovation is at a very tactical, executional level, I'd say Europe's already killing it, and it has been for some time. If it's about how do we customize the technology, how do we leverage it, how do we get closer to it, understand it, then I'd say we've been ahead of the US for some time. But Innovation can happen at a much more macro level as well. So if we look at the US, for instance, the US are typically better at thinking about the bigger picture, bigger things. And I think by nature, they think more globally, shall we say, which isn't a bad or good thing. It just means when the US does something, it maybe has more of a global ramification. And so if we use a real use case, if we talk about what does digital advertising look like in a post-cookie environment, with no disrespect to Latvia or Luxembourg, for instance, those countries aren't going to define the standard globally of what that's going to look like. It will come from visionaries in the US, visionaries like Brian or Randall Rothenberg from the IAB. It will be likely that they come to Europe to say, can you build me this or can you engineer this for me? But so I think it depends on how we look at innovation. I think you have to redefine what does it mean and why is that important.
Right. I think it's a fair point. I think definition is obviously going to be really, really important. That said, obviously, I think there's still going to be some good examples of this. Andy, would you agree with Paul?
No. I think innovation is how you behave. And I think what we Europeans are very good at is behaving in amongst absolute ambiguity and uncertainty and complexity. And having given this some thought in one of the 14 dress rehearsals that it took us through to get here today, there's about 7 or 8 dimensions that we're all experiencing, and you know all of these, and there's probably a couple more that you can think of. Cloud computing, social user interface design that Apple and Google have taught us about, good engineering, open source technology, mobile, big data, gaming, and so on. And we all spend a lot of our time going to conferences on any one of these. But I think what a good innovator does is operate across all 7 or 8 of these dimensions simultaneously and understand that you have to operate across all of these dimensions at the same time. And I think that's particularly difficult for legacy companies, big media companies who have earned money in different ways from previous businesses. Because typically, we go with what we're comfortable with and what we're good at, which might not be cloud computing or social or mobile or whatever. So, my take on innovation is that it's simply an ability to operate, but not just operate, to thrive in that environment, not just cope with it. And a lot of us talk about, coping with that and social and that change and so on and so forth. But it's simply an ability to thrive across those 7, 8, 9 dimensions.
Yeah, I agree with this. But innovation is not only about technology. RTB technology comes from the US, but you also have to consider the product. You can have the better technology. If you do not have the good products, the best technology won't let you sell it. So you really need to have a good product to be able to offer the advertiser what he wants. And a good technology and a good innovation is the one that allow someone to create a product that will match the needs of the advertiser, in fact.
Okay, so what we're saying is innovation does need to be defined. I think that's fair. We can't just assume that it's just clever things and funky features that you can add on. It could be on a market level. But on that note, if we're going to talk a little bit more about the specific markets, and I think how you can then implement those levels of innovation and what difference those things can make. I mean, you guys are all either certainly seen across various markets or represent certain markets. So Andy, let me ask you. I mean, you've taken a pretty different tack in the UK, to be fair. You are part of the group that has the world's largest digital, let's go with newspaper site, Mail Online. And most people in the UK, certainly in this market, have taken a very similar approach to each other. They've outsourced their inventory to networks or to SSPs. They're effectively biding their time, or they don't seem to be particularly aggressive. Whereas you guys got a team of over 30 people, and you've had it in-house for quite some time. To be fair, what makes you guys so different?
5 years ago, we cut off all external trading across all ad space across the whole group. trading with networks, trading with early exchanges, and so on. And this quickly led to a breadth, a depth, and a diversity of data. A massive breadth of data. We see about 43 million people in the UK every month, thanks largely in part to the Mail Online. But we view Mail Online as a footprint, and it doesn't stop at the Mail Online. We've gone across Associated. We work across DMGT, parent group as well, some of those companies in there. And we collaborate with external publishers as well. On the diversity of data, it is extremely important to be able to observe behavior, contextual, and so on, from many different angles. I don't think it's good enough. I mean, it becomes more difficult to go where we're taking this if you're just seeing it from the angle of a single newspaper or a single travel site or a single finance site. So we see a huge range of diverse behavior across the group and externally as well. And the depth of data is simply because, from a publisher's point of view, the one single biggest currency that we all have is first-party data. So we have absolute continuity of viewing that person when they're looking to buy a house, the size and the value of the house, when they're looking for a job, even if they're floating across showbiz or the health section or whatever. And that absolute continuity is also extremely important. And that's led to what we now call intent data. So of the three types of data that we look at, we generally look at demographic data, audience data, and intent data. And intent data is what it is. It is our opinion of what somebody is about to do. Not necessarily what somebody is interested in, but what they are about to do. They're about to buy travel insurance. They're about to buy a car. They're about to go on holiday or something like that. The best thing, I've got a couple of examples of intent, but the best way we treat intent is we allow the campaign to find its own audience. So intent data comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, and we have 15 or so analysts who spot these segments, and and they have a shelf life. They might have a shelf life of 12 hours or 12 days, but we see it, and we don't try and make sense of it. We act on it right away. So, right now, people who are interested in Mazda cars are 30 times more likely to open a Scottish-friendly savings account with that bank. Why? I don't know. And there's hundreds of examples like that. People viewing villas for rent in the Mediterranean are currently 8.27 times more likely to open a Barclays current or checking account.
Let me ask you a question there, Andy, if you don't mind.
I was on a roll.
This is I know, but I feel as though I want to
I've only got
pick
10
up.
minutes left.
We're all right. We're okay. I've got my eye on the clock. So you touched on a really interesting point. You found that we're jumping around the order a little bit here now, but the concept that you're learning by doing is effectively what I want to build on here. Mm-hmm. You're saying that you don't really know what's going to work. Yes, you're trying to predict things on one hand, but you don't know how it's likely to go. So, how does that really plug into the fact that you're part of a huge company? And I think this is going to be the same for you, so I want to come on to this too, but how does that really work? In fact, Alexi, let me ask you. How can you iterate and change so regularly when you've got huge stakeholders who like consistency and forecasting and forward planning?
You need to be fluid. You need to move fast. We are in a market that moves fast, and we have to go fast too, and to adapt our strategy on every day. Because, for instance, we also working with data. We make lots of things. We have probably one of the biggest databases in France that we have created on the same basis on first-party data with a French company, Ezacus. And we decided to bundle it with our media, for instance. And now we plan, maybe, to imagine to take some socio-demo data, which are almost common to the market open and to keep in tenders and things like this in-house and bundled to the media to benefit from our premium publisher and to get some good ROI for the advertiser, in fact.
Okay, so sorry, Paul, go ahead.
The thing you're talking about is agility, right? And I think that's probably a common theme in a lot of businesses in this room today who are independent, and MediaIQ is an independent business, and we're completely self-funded, and what that means is it's just that we're in complete control of our destiny and our roadmap. And I think that agility and the ability to be flexible and adaptable, particularly as you're going across different markets, is what will future-proof us to a certain extent. We don't have a lot of our competitors have taken on huge amounts of investment, and rightly or wrongly, they can speed up their product design probably, hire loads of marketing guys and sales staff. But what it puts in place is a very prescriptive 5-year, 3-year, 10-year kind of exit plan. It's like they're working towards that kind of exit, whether that's an acquisition or going public. And I think the problem that creates is we don't even have a 5-year plan. It's like I don't think anyone can put in place today a 5-year plan for their business, because we don't even know what's going to happen to the internet in 5 years. The speed of technology and evolution. So I think where we're able to be more flexible is where we're going to be, in the next 2 years, be a lot more in a much stronger position.
Right. This is a great point. The strategy has to change regularly. Otherwise, you don't know where the market's going to be. You don't know what competitors are going to exist. You don't know what new technology is going to become available. And it obviously has to be the same for you too. I mean, you may have been coming on to this point, so apologies if that was the case. DMDT is a huge business. How do you appease these guys? How do you make sure that they're okay with the concept that you've got almost an incubator where you're effectively just sort of trying anything you like to find out what's working? They're okay with that?
I clear the path, I think, is what I do for the team. So, I don't know where the path's going to go, but I clear the path. Understanding data is what publishers do. It's what publishers have done forever. We've just got a different type of data in front of us now, and it's less to do with panel data. It's more to do with live data, and that's the subtle difference, and it's no more than that. The team we run is driven by purpose, so we don't really make things up and have a go at stuff. We just think, how can we do that? How can we do it better? How can we deliver that better with better transparency or better granular understanding and so on? But we are absolutely driven by purpose. So, we're not necessarily impressed with new technologies just because they're new technologies, but we are impressed with, platform technologies like good old AppNexus. There you go. Because it makes sense at that point in time. But there's a fluidity in how we use technology. We will always use technology for heavy engineering. There's stuff we just don't do, and we don't do what AppNexus does or DoubleClick or anybody else. But we are beginning to move into sort of a thin layer of IP ownership at the very top level and working with data scientists and algorithms and all that fun stuff in Imperial College. Because we should be going in that direction. And there are many other publishers like Financial Times and CBS and Weather.com who are moving into that area too, which is basically intelligence-based yield management, if you like. And that's where we should play. But we're never going to play in the big sort of heavy engineering delivery side.
That's quite an important point as well, which is around, there's quite a misconception, I think, that execution is a commodity, right? And I think when you talk about engineering, you talk about why would you create your own AppNexus? And at MediaIQ, we've created our own proprietary technology on AppNexus and on the back of AppNexus because that's where we're creating the most value. And the value isn't being created in computing or parallel processing or engineering and so forth. It's actually being created on what do you do with that? How do you leverage that? And how do you customize the use of it? So I think that's where we're going to evolve this industry, which is how do you take a commodity, which is infrastructure, and how do you build on that?
I think this is a great point. So what you're essentially saying here is then clearly you need to understand the market that you're operating in. That's pretty important. They're not the same. You're going to need a different strategy regardless of what your business is doing. But at the same time, you need to focus on what your core strengths are. Businesses either have huge reach, they have a great brand, they have the ability to scale, they have leverage with buyers, they could have data. you may need to circumnavigate politics internally. You may be independent, which obviously gives you, the agility, to move ahead. So, I think this is obviously really good content, as it were, to make sure that people can see how some of the large businesses are innovating and iterating. So what I wanted to do, I've got my eye on the clock here, and we need to be a little bit conscious of time. Just to touch on one or two last points. How have you found something that we have found that we're challenged with? Scaling hasn't really been about the technology, or hasn't been about necessarily working with partners. It's been hiring. That's been a huge challenge for us. And I just wanted to touch on just to see how you guys have found building the teams. Has it been an easy process for you?
No, it's very, very hard because I guess it's the same in the UK, but we're on a very small market where everybody know each other. Yep. And RTB profile are definitely first inexistent, or two to form and to train. So it's hard to find the good guys that will be able to understand the problematics of RTB. In the media context, because you can find good technologies people, but that won't understand the media side of the business, or people that well know media, but not the technological one. So it's hard to find the good mix, the good balance between it in a very small market. And in fact, more and more we can see in France that people that are hired on a RTB company comes from finance or big technological engineering school, and not necessarily from the media, even the digital media.
Yeah. Perfect. And Andy, you built quite a few teams over the years at different types of businesses. A lot of your team is here as well, so obviously it's not necessarily just to refer to them directly. But how have you found that? How does your team look now versus the team that you would have built at DoubleClick or AdLink, 10 years ago? Same kind of people?
Two observations. The first is when we operate in what we're operating with at the moment with intent data and moving into data science and all that fun stuff, you can't hire people with legacy, with baggage, with with an opinion of, oh, I've done this before, so we do that. So the biggest asset we have, I think, is the combination of 15 analysts with the technology. I don't think you'll ever be able to package in a piece of technology what we're doing. It takes human beings. It takes human beings to take a leap of faith to say, you know what, I don't know why, but I'm going to go and try that. And I'll come back in the morning or in 2 hours' time and see what happened and so on. And technology doesn't do that. Human beings do that. The second thing is, as you know, we're building a trading exchange on the AppNexus platform. And what we're doing is putting that intent data into this trading exchange. And John said to me, he said, oh, cloud computing, we're going to go with Hadoop clusters. And for 5 months, we were going with Hadoop clusters in the cloud, and it was going to be big and wide and clever and so on. And then 2 weeks ago, he says, oh, right, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going with Redshift. And you've got to be able to just flip like that and move and not be concerned about those types of decisions. So, to the earlier point, it's an agility of thinking, but a comfort with that agility as well.
Did you know what he was talking about?
No, I haven't a clue what he's talking about. I just said yes.
Okay. So you've obviously got a team in place that understands.
Oh, they're brilliant. Yeah, I'm clueless.
All right, good.
I think getting that combination right is exactly how we kind of structured the business at MediaIQ as well, is that we've got a phenomenal team built in Bangalore now, which is engineers and analysts. But we still have local traders in the markets, and it's like the analysts can do every piece of modeling and give every piece of kind of analytical advice and building custom algorithms and so forth. But traders still need to be able to react to human instinct. So, for instance, when you're running campaigns at the start of a football season, or when Alex Ferguson's just retired, you've got to be able to predict trends, and an algorithm that's completely built on one algorithm, which a lot of our competitors are, then quite frankly, you get outperformed.
There's another point like this, it's that indeed technology brings us a lot of information, but sometimes you need the technology can tell you, this is what you should do. And in fact, the technology doesn't know the commercial relationships you can have with an advertiser, an agency or so. And sometimes the technology is wrong just because technology doesn't make business. Human
people
does.
Still sell to people, right?
Of course. Well, look, I've just noticed down here we're going to get in trouble in a minute. So again, just to recap, firstly, thank you very much for coming on here. I'm going to get lynched backstage in a minute, I'm sure. But the obvious summary is obviously the markets are very important. It's critical to understand the nuances of where you're operating, making sure you've got the right team in place, making sure to whatever extent you can circumnavigate the politics, because iterating regularly is incredibly important to the success, and nobody actually knows what's going to work until you try something. And that might not even work later that day. So again, gentlemen, thank you very much. And thank you very much. Look forward to the rest of the day.